present here through the online mode though, to be part of this wonderful national seminar organized by the Department of Commerce. The Department of Commerce has really taken the most relevant topic, the seminar, because now we are in the shoulder of this Vikasit Bharat. The journey since independence has been very long. We've spent already 75 years, more than 75 years, and we've tried to hone our resources, intellectual as well as human resources, to the extent that we have reached to this stage where we can aspire to become a Vikashita Bharat. We got independence. You are aware of the fact that the economic condition at the time was in a terrible way. It was terrible. More than half of the population was not getting food. 5 meal a day for that matter. The food sufficiency was not there. The partition horrors were there. The tension across the crisscrossing of the population, refugees were very much challenging. The needs of resources that caused due to the colonial exploitation over 2 centuries, that actually caused the misery in 1947 when we got India independent. Condition was such that we were importing everything from alpine to aeroplane, from drugs, basic drugs like dysentery, malaria, for those diseases. Also importing England, UK, the great between the so-called the colonial linkage was there. So politically we got independent. Economically we were so dependent on mainly UK, and after that, of course, many other countries. The intellectual resources in terms of academics, in terms of researchers, in terms of schools, colleges, universities, not sufficient with this big challenge. The challenge was the misery. It was there at the time we got our independence. To cope up with this challenge, the big question for the then political leadership. There were different strategies of development that the then governments tried to adopt, experimented with various kinds of economic strategies. And those experiments were successful to some extent, were not sufficient enough to realize the goals and objectives of a Vikasita Bharat. The Bharat is a different thing. It's developed India. We got independent. It was this developed country, then it became less developed country, developing country. In different phases of economic growth, as students of commerce and economics study the history books of economics, economic history of India, you see it is a momentous at different stages of time, although we are facing so many challenges, we were able to cope up with the pressure, economic pressure, economic hardship rather. Because, as I have said already, intellectual resources were limited. The first challenge was intellectual resources. To educate our people that we can innovate, that we can use the appropriate technology. Give you a few instances. When we wanted to have steel mill, what a collaboration with the Germans. As a result, we got Rourkela steel plant. Britishers also collaborated. The Americans did not want. Because India was not a capitalist country at that point of time. Technology was not forthcoming. Give you a small instance. We are more inclined towards the socialist bloc at that point of time. So that we wanted to have, say, for example, fertilizers to help our farmers to produce more agricultural products. The fertilizer industry, the technology to produce naphtha, from out of naphtha, the fertilizer, technology was not available to us in the world. You will be amazed to know we had to negotiate with Romania, then Romania, which was part of the Soviet bloc. And Romania gave us a second-hand fertilizer plant. That was put up in Talcher. Talcher is a place in my state. We have, of course, I think they have shut down now, a fertilizer plant. What I mean to say is that we are dependent on the external powers for our technology also to cope up with the myriad challenges that we confronted following our independence. And those challenges were slowly and steadily overcome through various means, various strategies. Collapse of Soviet Union was the biggest challenge for us. And at that point of time, we were in a condition that we had to mortgage our gold in the Bank of England. We did not have the foreign exchange reserves to pay for 1 week for importations of oil or drugs. So the collapse of Soviet Union was the high water mark. Point of view of India to transform and strategize and adopt a new strategy, new path of development. In my opinion, as a political economist, we are confronted with challenge. We come up with much more formidable solutions which can counter the crisis. After that, the capitalist path of development, India was also very carefully undertaken. A cautious approach was undertaken. Even now, in my opinion, we are not fully capitalist. I'm deliberately speaking this language because this is a seminar where the students of economics and commerce, for me commerce means economics, except the trade dimension. I'm also a trade expert. So what I want to say is, when we undertake various policy measures in sync with the international institutions, because the international institutions that were set by the Western powers were also not able to solve the myriad problems of the least less developed countries. Despite the fact that India happens to be one of the voices of global south. As leadership in the global south is unchallengeable and acceptable to all. But the biggest challenge is from the West. To become Viksit Bharat, full-fledged, developed country. It is, of course, heartening to put before you the fact, I got a very limited time, I got to go to for another seminar. India happens to be the third largest economy in the world in terms of purchasing power parity. India happens to be the fourth largest country in terms of GDP. Now, we are also going in the of becoming the third largest economy in the world, having the highest or the speediest rate of growth moment in the world. No developed country is having this rate of growth. Of course, developed countries will not have a high rate of growth, but I'm talking about other countries. So Japan, Germany, China is big, of course, big power is number two. To beat them, how to be at par with them, biggest challenge. You see, we have got Education Policy 2020, which has brought in a new ecosystem, a paradigm shift for educational environment. We have also many other measures. Recently, you might have, I'm referring to telling to the students, you might have come across the biggest threat by arrogance, trade and commerce, our importation of oil. These things are now scanned by the big brother, the US. Are we able to cope up and challenge those things? How soon are we going to diversify our commerce? Textile and apparel industries, our engineering goods, manufacturing, to diversify. Because mostly what we have done is sports were concentrated in a few pockets. The government, the policymakers, the thinkers, the think tanks are sitting seriously to all strategies to make India a Viksit Bharat. And I'm sure is on the path of becoming a Viksit Bharat, becoming a knowledge superpower. We are not in favor of, military superpower. India never wanted to become a military superpower. Wanted to be only an economic powerhouse with knowledge superpower. Our philosophy, our ideological predispositions, our predilections, all these things in sync with our movement towards becoming a Viksit Bharat. Despite the huge challenge we face to feed, latest statistics is that we have already fed 25 million people in the past 10 years from the poverty line, from below poverty line to above poverty line. But still the challenge is so much. What the infrastructure development, we have to develop so many things to fit into the bill called Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much, and I really congratulate Professor Joy Das and his colleagues of Commerce Department, and also the Pro Vice Chancellor, Venu, Professor Venu, and also the students of Commerce. Also, I take this opportunity to congratulate Professor A.K. Mishra, who will be leaving us shortly. So, this is a very formal occasion. Of course, we will have another occasion before you leave, sir, before you take your superannuation. But I really appreciate Professor Joy Das has really thought seriously to take his name and give him appreciation of lifetime of academic excellence. I congratulate all of you. So my blessings to all of you, because the chair said VC will bless. Yes, my blessings to all of you, and I wish you will have a very animated, fruitful discussion, deliberation, and conversation. Come up with a proper resolution so that it will be a kind of a paper to be submitted to ICSSR and even to the NITI Aayog in case it is a really very good resolution. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.